March 20th, 1966, a Sunday. Sometime between 11 a.m. and noon, the single most famous prize in all of global sports literally vanished into thin air from a locked display case in central London.
The scene of the crime? Westminster Central Hall. The Jules Rimet trophy was sitting there as the absolute star attraction of all things, a rare stamp exhibition. And this wasn't just some casual, loosely watched display. The cup was heavily insured for way more than its weight in gold, and it had guards on it around the clock. Plus, the timing? It couldn't have been worse. England was supposed to host the World Cup just 4 months later. The thieves totally ignored the incredibly valuable stamps and jewelry nearby. They came for one thing, and one thing only.
Okay, let's dive into exactly what they took. This was football's original global treasure. Designed way back in 1930 by a French sculptor, Abel Lafleur, it was crafted to look like Nike, the ancient Greek goddess of victory, not the shoe brand, holding an octagonal cup above her head. Originally, it was just called Victory, but they renamed it in 1946 for Jules Rimet, the FIFA president who basically willed the entire tournament into existence. Think about this. By the time it sat in that London case in '66, this little golden statue had survived a world war, crossed oceans multiple times, and been hoisted by champions from Italy, Uruguay, West Germany, and Brazil. Its real value wasn't the gold. It was the heavy, concentrated history of every World Cup ever played.
As you can imagine, the public completely freaked out. It was a massive, embarrassing disaster for Scotland Yard and the Football Association. Britain had promised the world this incredibly safe, spectacular tournament, and they couldn't even keep the main prize safe. The panic went into overdrive the very next day when the FA's chairman Joe Mears gets a ransom demand in the mail. The asking price? £15,000.
So, the police immediately set up a classic sting operation. We're talking briefcases stuffed with bundles of plain paper to look like cash, and a highly controlled, high-stakes exchange. And it actually worked, mostly. They arrested a guy named Edward Betchley, but Betchley swore up and down he was just a middleman for some mysterious mastermind he called the Pole, and he absolutely refused to say where the trophy actually was. So for nearly a week, this frantic manhunt totally gripped London, while terrified football officials were quietly sweating behind closed doors, wondering if they'd have to hand the World Cup winners a fake replica. But here's the absolute best part. The largest police search in British sporting history, an operation involving some of the world's greatest detectives, and a massive coordinated manhunt, was ultimately beaten by a black and white dog. His name was Pickles. 7 days after the heist, a guy named David Corbett is just taking Pickles out for a totally ordinary evening walk in South London.
Pickles is sniffing around a parked car, as dogs do, and gets super interested in this random parcel shoved under a hedge. Corbett later said it was tightly wrapped in newspaper and tied up with string. He peels back the paper, fully expecting it to be trash. But instead, he's staring at a small golden figure holding a cup. He flips it over, and etched right there on the base are the names of the previous World Cup winning countries. Unbelievable, right?
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer absurdity of the whole thing. Corbett marches this priceless artifact into a police station where the brilliant detectives immediately interrogate him as their prime suspect. Luckily, they cleared him pretty quick, and his life completely transformed. Pickles became a massive global celebrity. I'm talking TV appearances, special medals, the works. And in this incredibly beautiful twist, Pickles even got to attend the official victory banquet 4 months later, right after England's captain, Bobby Moore, lifted that exact same cup. Corbett even bought a house with the reward money, and the mastermind who actually stole it never definitively caught.
So the trophy makes it back to the pitch, and the story rolls on. Fast forward 4 years to the 1970 World Cup in Mexico. Brazil crushes Italy 4-1. Now this was Brazil's third championship, and under the rules back then, hitting 3 victories meant you didn't just borrow the Jules Rimet trophy for 4 years, you actually earned the right to keep it forever. Brazil shipped that legendary cup to Rio de Janeiro, locked it up at the Brazilian Football Confederation headquarters, and treated it like a permanent, glorious monument to their total dominance.
Let's move forward again and see how this builds, because 13 years later, things take a very dark turn. It's the night of December 19th, 1983. Under the cover of darkness, intruders break into those exact same Brazilian Football Confederation headquarters.
They made a beeline for the trophy room, but get this, they didn't even try to smash the state-of-the-art bullet-resistant glass guarding the front of the display. That would be way too hard. Instead, they just overpowered the night watchman, walked around to the back of the cabinet, and pried open a flimsy wooden panel with a crowbar. Yep, they literally just reached right in, and the Jules Rimet trophy was gone. Again.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the aftermath.
Unlike in London, the investigators in Rio actually found the suspects. Several men were convicted for the robbery. But honestly, it didn't even matter. The trophy itself was gone. Investigators are pretty much certain that this priceless artifact, a literal piece of global heritage, was immediately chucked into a furnace and melted down for its raw scrap metal value. Not a single surviving piece has ever been found. Sure, Brazil got a replica in 1984, but the original golden goddess that had traveled the world since 1930 was violently, permanently erased.
So, the crucial point is how wildly these two crimes mirror and distort each other. It's almost like looking into a crazy funhouse mirror. In London, the thief totally escapes, but a random dog out for a walk saves the physical treasure, giving England this perfect, happy ending for their one and only World Cup win. But in Rio, the cops actually catch the bad guys, but the ultimate prize, the one Brazil had supposedly earned for eternity, was defeated by a cheap piece of plywood and destroyed forever.
Obviously, the sporting world learned a harsh lesson. FIFA had already commissioned a new, modern World Cup trophy for 1974, and they completely changed the rules. Today, no one gets to keep the original, no matter how many times they win. Champions just get a gold-plated replica to take home. Ultimately, football replaced what it could, right? The shape, the ceremony, the symbol.
But that original golden goddess, the very same one that crossed oceans and survived a world war, met such a sudden, ugly end in a melting pot. And it leaves you with this really haunting thought. Does the true essence of that global treasure now exist only in old photographs, gold-plated replicas, and the memory of a tightly wrapped parcel just lying in the dirt beneath a London hedge?